All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, wonderful students, T-Birds in the virtual house. For folks who I haven't met yet, my name is Edwina Fui. I use she, her pronouns, and we are gonna get started. But before, we officially start, I do wanna share a few tips with our folks today. So live automatic captions are available. If the captions did not show up for you automatically, please click on the live transcript at the bottom of your screen to view the subtitles. You can also click to view the full transcript so you can see what was said earlier in our conversation. And if you'd rather not see the captions, you can also turn them off by selecting hide subtitles. We ask that you please keep yourself muted throughout the program just to help us reduce background noise, and please only unmute yourself if invited by one of the advisors or presenters. When we are in breakout rooms, you can unmute yourselves to participate with your fellow student peers. If you are seeking a more focused view on your Zoom screen, we recommend that you switch to speaker view instead of gallery, and then also to highlight the person speaking throughout the meeting. You can switch by going to the upper right corner and clicking on the dots to change the mode. This program is also being recorded and will be available on our CLS YouTube page in a few days. If you have a technical problem or event question, feel free to ask us in the chat feature, and you are welcome to use the chat function throughout the program to connect with other attendees. All right, and moving into our next slide, please also remember, to check in. We'll put the link in the chat in a bit, but before we do that, we just want to take space, just to take a deep breath, and in any conversation that we engage in, we just want to take a moment to really be cautious around the space that we're in. So whether you're joining from here in Washington, we recognize here specifically at Highline College that we are on occupied Duwamish, Coast Salish, Muckleshoot, and Puyallup tribal lands. And so just really thinking about the communities and the spaces in which you're joining from, and just always just taking a moment to honor those who came before us, especially First and Indigenous people. Further, we respectfully acknowledge enslaved people, primarily of African descent, who provided exploited labor in which this country was built, with little to no recognition. And today we are indebted to their labor and the labor of many Black and brown bodies that continue to work in the shadows of our collective benefit. And as I mentioned a little earlier, please sign in. This helps us to track our participants and also just provides a way for us to connect with you in future announcements and things like that. So shout out to our moderators posting this in the chat. I already took a moment to introduce who I am, so I want to invite our leadership programming team to introduce themselves.
Hi all, my name is Georgia Peary. I use she, her pronouns. I am the club's program leadership advisor within the Center for Leadership and Service.
So very well, my name is Lupe. I'm the International Engagement Leadership Advisor under the Center for Leadership and Service.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Amy Bergstrom. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Programming and Marketing Leadership Advisor in the Center for Leadership and Service.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gio Martinello. I am the Mentorship Programs Leadership Advisor at the Center for Cultural and Inclusive Excellence, and I use he, him, his pronoun.
Awesome. Thank you, LPT. And so really, we want to, just a few things that we're hoping that our community takes away from today's session is that one, that you would gain a better understanding of your personality and your leadership type, looking for spaces to explore and reflect on your current values, and also just really seeing the beauty and value of different leadership styles, because we all bring a different piece of who we are and our identities and how we show up in different spaces. And so today we get to have that wonderful opportunity to talk about that as a community, while also learning more about each other. And so you may be asking, what is Thunderbird Thursday? Where does this connect to? How is this going to be like an exchange of me and sharing your experiences, but also what does the center provide? So the Connect program really is an opportunity for folks to really like explore and learn about like leadership opportunities. Specifically in this year, I mean, this is similar to last year, is that Thunderbird Thursday is a session that's offered every first Thursday of each month. So go ahead and put it in your calendar, you know, save the date, and unless it like falls on like a holiday, we will have a session every first Thursday on various topics. Sometimes we may have guest presenters, sometimes it may be your fellow LPT advisors who will be hosting various topics. And so every session will have a different theme, and it really will help you explore and just learn how leadership can connect to that topic. And so what's wonderful about this opportunity is that if you at least attend 5 workshops, you will be receiving a leadership certificate, which we do give at the end of our academic year. So in June, the last Thunderbird Thursday is actually called our Final Say program. And so this is a space where we'll recognize you and all that you've contributed to the different workshops that you've attended. So there is a form that you would go to track this. And so you would find this by going to cls.highline.edu, the searching Connect program, and then you'll find the Google form. So yeah, so now you have one so far, and I'm gonna pass on the virtual mic to GP.
Hi all. Before we do a nice deep dive into the topic of leadership today, we're just going to do a quick check-in. And so whose dog is this? I don't know. It's my dog. I'm kidding. Any chance to talk about her, I will. So as a little check-in, put in the chat which Sammy you are feeling like today, and maybe with like a little bit of an explanation. You don't have to share details, but personally, I'm kind of a 3 because it's like almost 3 o'clock. I'm feeling a little sleepy. I want to close all the blinds and take a little nap, which is why I have my tea. I need some caffeine. So you put in the chat your number and then why you feel like that. And also these are open to interpretation. Number 9, I personally think it's some angst and she's screaming at me because she doesn't want to go on a walk, but it may just be a yawn. You never know. Lupe's a 1. He wants to just get on the trails. He's already out the door. He wants to be active. And Amy's a 4. Things are a little sideways today. That's a great explanation. And Gio's a 2. He's sleepy. Ying is also a 2. Anyone else in the chat? Which Sammy are you? Leslie's at 8. Leslie wants to be in bed. I feel you, Leslie. Ooh, that's an interesting take, Gio. Which Sammy best describes I want boba? See, this is where I think 9 is very versatile, where she could be screaming at me to go get boba with her. Oh, where Amy says 6. That's true. She looks really cute and nice in 6. Okay. Thanks for that little check-in. We always like to do these as a nice little like laugh before. But as a real warm-up to our workshop today, I'm really intrigued, we all are as leadership advisors, as a pulse check of what does leadership look like to you? And so if you click on the link that Lupe has put in the chat, it's going to take you to a Padlet. Everyone should be able to view it and add wherever you like. So you can use words, pictures, look up a meme or a GIF to show what you think leadership looks like to you. And we just want to get a pulse check on when you think of leadership, what words, pictures, or people come to mind with that. So we'll spend a few minutes doing it. Okay, so someone says leading meetings and projects. Yeah, that person who's kind of maybe in the front and taking a lead on something. A servant leader, awesome. That's a topic we will probably be covering sometime this year in Thunderbird Thursdays. Strong and passionate. A baby's got to do what a baby's got to do. The relevancy of Rugrats till this day is honestly amazing. They really are great. I also grew up watching Rugrats. Me too, Matt. Communicates effectively. And compassionate for others. Yeah, so caring about other people first is what leadership looks like to you. Very similar to the concept of servant leadership. Willing to do what others can't / won't do. Someone's put RBG up there. I agree. And a person someone looks up to. It's why these are anonymous, but I know it's Amy's Bitmoji. So actually, Amy put that. Amy put teamwork. So leading is not always a solo job. It's when you're surrounded by others and you're all going towards a common goal. Awesome. I love all these phrases. So we will keep this. It's just a good check-in pulse. We have one more. Leadership is love in action and effort. It takes work, but can feel really good. I really love that. That's awesome. That it can feel really hard sometimes, but it actually feels really, really good. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your screen, Gio. We are good to go. So that was a nice little pulse check as we venture into this topic of leadership. And now I'm going to pass the virtual mic to Lupe.
Hey everyone. So in this next portion, we're going to try and define leadership. I know we all come from different experiences, and so and just like how we did the last activity, there's different things that people deem as most important when it comes to leadership. And so in our next slide, you'll see that we're going to be breaking up into some breakout rooms. But before we do that, I want to set up a scenario that we're going to be discussing. And so I want everyone to close your eyes. No, really, I can see y'all. Close your eyes. And imagine a world where leadership doesn't exist in any form or fashion. Okay, you can open your eyes. So I know that was pretty quick, but I want you to pay attention. So in your breakout room, you're gonna revisit that world that you just thought of. And I want you to describe what it would be like living in a leaderless world. I don't know if that's even a word, but we are gonna use it for today, a leaderless world. You're gonna talk about what that would be like. And then after that, you would talk about why leadership is important. And then finally, what does leadership look like to you? I know we kind of did that with our Padlet earlier, but I'm going to revisit that after having this discussion. And so I'm going to let's give 10 minutes for our breakout rooms. And so if we can have at least 3 people in each room, I think that'd be great.
Lupe, do you want pro staff to be in the room as well, or?
Sure.
So if there is, this is when my map has to come in handy. I'll do 5 rooms. All right.
So welcome everyone back to our main room. So we just came out from the scenario talking about what a leaderless world would look like. And so I would love for somebody from each group to share one of the things that was mentioned. You don't have to go into too much, that we don't have a lot of time, but I'd love to hear about some of the conversations that were happening today. Oh, y'all not gonna be quiet today. I mean, it is a leadership workshop.
The first thing that came to mind for me was just a non-existent world where everything falls apart, basically.
Yeah. Thanks, Maya.
Yeah, in my group, we talked about how it would pretty much be really chaotic. And I kind of felt like people wouldn't be motivated to kind of reach their goals because they just didn't have leaders to kind of guide them. Because I think it's always important to have somebody that's like, has a lot more experiences than you kind of guide you through life. So I feel like if we didn't have leaders or people like that, it would just be like everybody just being confused and chaotic.
Thanks, Maya. What about our other groups?
In the group that I was in, we kind of said that it was chaotic, but also the first question was the most difficult to answer because they just had a lot of layers within it.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie, for bringing that up. And I kind of, when I was thinking about what leadership is, I wanted it to be difficult because I think that I don't think you can just say this is leadership and that's it. I think there's so many layers, like an onion. I'm thinking of Shrek right now. I don't know why my brain just started thinking of Shrek. But to go to our slide, one of the things that we are talking about is why leadership is important. So something that we always talk about here in the center is going back to the why. Why do we do the things that we do? And if we see that there's a problem as humans, there is an inclination or a tendency that we want to address that problem most of the time. And so I think our philosophy here at the center is like going back to the why. Why do we do what we do? Why is leadership important? Why does it matter for us to invest in students to make a difference with or to make an impact? And so just things to be, I don't have an answer for you, but I want us to be aware of like the things that we do. And so with the time that we have left, I would love to hear like, what are some of the leadership qualities that are most important to you? Or actually, so Gio, if you can refresh the slide, because I'm looking at the wrong slide, I think. The slide that I have says, name an example of how you have shown up as a leader for the question. Thanks. Sorry, Gio. But while we're waiting for the slides, we can answer that question. Name an example of how you have shown up as a leader. In my group, we were talking about like examples of or situations where we knew something was wrong and we didn't do what we knew was right. And so that was something that came up in our discussion, but I want to hear what everyone else, an example of where we stood up and was a leader.
Okay, can I go?
Sure.
Yeah. So the other in summers, I come to my friend's house and then we decide to cook some Vietnamese food there, and it's take us a lot of task. And then the guys is just like, oh, I don't want to cook at all. I don't know what to do. And I'm the one who being in charge. I just like I telling them like, hey, can this team make vegetable? I'll make the chickens marinated, and then after that the vegetable team will pan fry the chickens. Like I show them the directions what they're gonna do, and then they kind of follow all of my opinions though. I'm so grateful for that because I feel like a leader usually is making a firm decisions that other people will kind of like follows to that. So
What a great example. Thank you, Katie. And we would love to sample some of the food that you made in your example. But yes, so what I heard from there, like Edwina mentioned in the chat, there was delegation. There was also communication that I heard in that example. And also a willingness to step up to the plate and accept that challenge as a leader, right? Nobody, there was a lot of people that were there, but nobody wanted to take charge. And so that's also part of being a leader.
yes, that's right.
Maya wrote in the chat, when others in group projects struggle, sometimes I step in to share my knowledge to help them. That's great. So when I read that, Maya, like what I see like in that leadership example is like seeing a need and offering to a solution for that need. It's great. Any other examples of how people have shown up as a leader? Let's get one more example, at least one more. You can share in the chat if you don't feel comfortable unmuting yourself. Any of our staff want to share how you have shown up as a leader in your own experience? Okay. I think Matt was answering the first question that said, what would happen in a world without leadership? And his answer was there wouldn't be any order and a lot of chaos. Thank you, Matt.
I don't know if this is like a good example. I think in this experience, I learned more about myself. But when I went on a study abroad trip, I remember the first night we got there, somebody else ended up taking my luggage. And so I just like, you know how it is after you get off a plane, all you want to do is like shower, get ready for the evening. So I had like no clothes and anyways, TMI. But I remember one of my professors, one of the leads on the trip, he pulled me to the side and he was like, Edwina, he's like, I just wanted to say thank you for just being so patient and calm. Like, you know, usually people would really freak out in situations like that, especially when it comes to like personal belongings. But he was just saying like, thank you me for having patience. So I think just like our character and like how we respond in certain situations, I think can contribute to how you show up as a leader. Granted, yes, I was worried, but also another friend of mine on that trip was able to support me and helping me stay calm. So I think, yeah, relying on your community. And then the next day, of course, the person returned my items. So it all ended up being good. So that was what I thought of.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Patience and having understanding is super important, and the way that we respond and not react. I see you, Edwina. Well, thank you all for sharing the space with us and letting us know about your perspectives on leadership. I'm going to pass the mic to Gio for our next portion.
All right. Thank you, Lupe, for that. So now that we've talked about leadership and what it looks like, how do people manifest it, and what is the importance of leadership? We talked about, like, I saw like chaos. If we live in a world that we don't have leaders, it's going to be chaotic, right? So for the next part, we'll talk about values and what keeps our leaders moving. What keeps them grounded. But before that, we're going to talk about series and movies. So on the chat or unmute yourselves, like what TV shows are you watching right now, or movies that you're like really into? Anyone, y'all, I know we're virtual right now, so y'all, ooh, someone's calling me. What do I do? Hold on.
We can help, Gio.
Yeah, go ahead and answer.
Go mute and we'll help. So we see Good Girls, Mila is watching. Katie's watching The Squid Game. I haven't heard of that one. Georgia just started Reservation Dogs on Hulu. Leslie watched Survivor. Survivor's in season like 40 something now. Maya's watching the OG Gossip Girls series. Matt has been watching a lot of classic Nickelodeon. Ying is watching Taking a Shot at Love and Love at Sea. And Pictures Perfect Mysteries. Okay. Doris is waiting for On My Block. Okay, it's coming. Charlie is watching Meteor Garden. All right, I feel like this is not necessarily what the point of this activity was, but I feel like we all have a new list of shows to watch here. And Mina's watching Golden Girls, Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold, oh my gosh,
Hey
what a great
Arnold.
show. I'm definitely in the like nostalgia period. I've been rewatching Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Ted Lasso, a lot of Ted Lasso. All right, back to you, Gio.
All right, thank you, Amy, for stepping in. Oh, look at that leadership. Thank you, Amy. So the reason why I asked this is because for our next activity, we're going to do a Mentee, and I want you to think about a person or a character from that show that you watch that you think you look up as a leader. Like for me, I forgot to tell you all, like I love Money Heist. That's what I'm currently watching right now and obsessed with. Not because of like how intense it is, but also the different leadership styles that shows throughout the whole show. The professor and like the different cities like Tokyo, Manila. So I'm just like really into that. So if you go on Mentee, the link is on the chat, and I'm not sure if you click that link, it'll be direct to that. But if it's not, go to mentee.com and enter 6322-6702. That is 6322-6702, and answer the question, what do you think is this character's top 5 values? And I'm gonna go and stop sharing my screen and share a different tab. Let's see. There. All right, what are your top 5 values? Or not yours, but your favorite fictional character. Don't care about money? Okay. I would think that they're giving. Brave, loving, strong, appreciation, courageous, caring, wants the best for others, valiant, selfless. Oh, this is giving me a headache. Just keep moving. Confident. Okay. Charismatic. We have someone there, skater. Okay, very specific. Ballet teacher, thoughtful, selfless, dependent, independence. Has everyone done it? Care for family, truthful. Let's see, what else? Smart, boldness, care for family, steadfast, friendships. Right. I think so. These are all like the values of your favorite fictional characters. This is what keeps them grounded. This is pretty much their whys. Like, why are they doing the actions that they're doing? Because like they're what do you call that? They're centered around these core values that they have. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen again. I'm going to share my screen again. This is a lot of work. Oh, shout out to LPT for like, or anyone who has to do like share screen being a ZJ. Okay, so this is a question for everyone, pro staff and our student leaders. So what is values? Like on top of your head, you know, I would highly encourage you to unmute yourself. I like reading the chat, but also I love hearing your voice just as much, if not more. What is value?
feel like that is something that you cherish and keep very close to your heart?
Something you cherish and keep close to yourself. Amy said the things you care about and that drive what you do. Anyone else? There's only 16 of us here. What's up? You know, we're very intimate, which I love because we get to have like a meaningful, deep conversation. We're gonna go on breakout rooms soon, so you definitely have you have more time to share. The things that are most important to you. Cool. All right. Thank you all for answering that. So in this context, we're talking about leadership. Like value is our guiding principles. It is definitely, those are our core values that helps us decide on things and helps us act on things. They are something that we believe that are important and definitely affect how we lead effectively based on our skill sets and our ability. So now we're gonna do an activity that will help us kind of define what our core values are. So if you have, please grab a paper and a pen because there's gonna be writing involved. If not, open a document like a Word document on Google or your Microsoft Word. And then on the chat, like, thank you, Lupe. Lupe posted a link that will take you to a list of words that are values. So in this list, I want you to write down any words that resonate with you. And you have 5 minutes to do this. Just like any words at all. I'm gonna write down mine too. I'm gonna stop the music and let's all come back before we all start singing Hotel California. Because that's gonna bring back a lot of good memories. Not bad, but still, we have a lot of discussion here going on. All right, so now I want you all to look at your list of core values, and I want you to put them in groups that group them in a way where they all relate to each other. Personally, you know. So this is an example on the slides. We have abundance, growth, freedom, security. So however you want to group them, do that. And then once you group them, I want you to circle one word from each group that like represent that group. Come back, y'all. While you are finishing that, we're going to reflect on our core values. Hopefully you end up with 5, but if not, that's totally fine. Our core values can change over time depending on depending on the situation you're in. Like maybe there's some event that had happened to you and that will change the way you see things and change the way your leadership style is. So now we're gonna go back to our first breakout room and you're gonna reflect on your answers, your core values, like how could you apply your core values to yourself as a leader, and how do you or could your values apply to your how you lead. Questions we posted on the chat before. There you go. Thank you, Edwina. And then I will go ahead and open the breakout rooms again if I can find it. All right, so now I want you all to bring this actually no, we're gonna do like a share out. Like who wants to share? Maybe a student leader who would like to respond to one of the questions that I posted here. Like how do you apply your core values to yourself as a leader, or how do you apply your values on how you lead? Okay, Lupe said Charlie and Melot had great contributions to the discussion. So Melot and Charlie, do y'all want to like talk about it? Do you want to share? Leslie, Katie, Matt, Ying, Maya. Anyone?
In our
To
group,
answer-
What is it, Leslie?
Oh, sorry. I guess to answer the second question is if the values that I have like cannot be applied towards leading, then I don't think that I like truly value them because I want them to be like consistent in the same area.
All right. Thank you, Leslie, for sharing. Anyone else?
I said that I really resonated with the words both learning and growth. It was, I think, because I felt like for my senior year of high school right now, I'm like doing a lot of things that are helping me to grow. Like this job that I have right now as a student leader, I feel like every day I'm just learning so many things, and I'm just like putting myself in positions where I'm just like exposed to different environments, and that way I'm just always growing and learning. So I feel like those words really resonated with me.
Thank you, Mila. I like that. Growing and like learning, because like every day is always like a learning opportunity for us leaders. Thank you. Lupe said compassion, creativity, community. I have community too. Consistency, commitment. GP said humor, playfulness, reliability, kindness, and humor. Humor twice. Well, yes. I think like LPT is funny. Wait, who said humor? GP. Oh yeah, GP is funny. Amy, excellence, exclusiveness, empathy, joy, and growth. Great. Thank you all so much for doing this exercise with us. As we go on to our next part, like I want you all to bring this with you and really reflect on them as Amy talks about leadership, like leadership styles.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Gio. So yes, we're not going to go too much into the details of this, but one of the things we wanted to talk a little bit about is just the fact that as even you saw with all of the different values, that we also all have different ways that we are as leaders. And we actually did a whole Thunderbird Thursday about knowing your leadership style. So if you wanted to, it's on the CLS YouTube channel, you could pull that up and go through that Thunderbird Thursday workshop with us via the YouTube. But we wanted to kind of just pull out some of the reasons why knowing some about your leadership style could be beneficial to you. So some of the things that stand out for me, at least, is really just knowing yourself. I think knowing like what you like and what you dislike, it kind of goes along with the values that we shared. Having that time to sort of delve into the way your own mind, the way your own styles work, and how you approach things. I think one of the things that's really interesting about learning about different leadership styles is realizing that your style is not the only style, and even like that someone else's style is not the best style or the only style. And so how do I approach myself the way that I lead, and how do other people approach things? So you can really learn. I always think it's really interesting to read the descriptions and go, oh yeah, that totally applies to me. And then related to that, like how you can connect with other people. So if I understand the way that my style is, and I understand, for example, one of the ones that we'll talk about is 16 personalities, and introvert and extrovert, and also there's one that's thinking and feeling, and being like an introverted feeler, and how that affects the way that I interact with other people, and even like how I process emotions and show emotions and all that sort of thing. They can help with like thinking about school and career, and how does your style work in the potential places that you might work. And so if you know that you are somebody who loves interacting with people, and that's a really important part of your leadership style, then maybe looking for careers that allow your daily work to have some sort of interaction with people could be really valuable. And also your weaknesses and strengths. So knowing what you can provide, what are the strengths of your styles that I can bring into a situation, and then maybe where are some places that your style isn't as strong, and so you might need additional support. I know, like, kind of going back to, I always try and bring examples for myself, right? But going into something like ThunderWeek that's happening this week, being able to say, okay, I am really good at like organizing things and getting things going, but then when it comes to actually being on the ground, bringing someone over to talk, I might want to pull in Geo, because Geo really can get out there and like make people feel really welcome, and invite them over to our table and those kinds of things. And so how do we use the things that we know about ourselves to kind of really serve people well? You can go to the next slide. Also, what I find really valuable about leadership styles is just having language to talk about your experiences and knowing that you're not the only one. So you are a unique human, but also we have different tendencies that show up in multiple people. And so reading about styles, learning about leadership styles can give you a chance to talk about those things and even say, oh, hey, there are other people who lead in this style. It's not just me. And again, I shared like knowing how to work with other people, knowing, especially if I know someone else's leadership style that I work really closely with, that might help me in adjusting how I work with them, and recognizing that there's a lot of beauty in the different ways that people lead, and my style is not necessarily the best style. There's lots of other ways that people can be leaders, or even if you think someone else's style is the best style, recognizing that's not necessarily true either, and you have a beautiful way of being a leader that you can bring into different situations. So if anybody has additional thoughts about why you think leadership, knowing leadership styles is good, feel free to throw them in the chat. But I wanted to show actually, so the leadership programming team, the folks who are leading this event today, we have all taken various leadership personality assessments over time. And so these are just 3 different ones. And after this is over, we will share links if you want to explore some of those leadership styles. But there's the 16 personalities, which is a leadership assessment that has 4 different continuums, and you can end up with, because of that, you end up with 16 different combinations of those leaderships, or those aspects of personality. And so those are those 4-letter words that you see there. So Georgia's an ESFP, which the name of that is the entertainer. So that's the first one. The second one is appreciation style, so ways that we like to be appreciated. And so, for example, Edwina likes quality time and words of affirmation. Those are the ways that she feels really appreciated. And then the third type, or the third style that's on there, is the Enneagram. It is a personality typing system that focuses on your central or core fears and desire, and how that then affects the way that you interact in the world. Everyone here on our team, they know that Amy is the one who's obsessed with the Enneagram. And I'm an Enneagram type 6, wing 5, which is called the Defender. Just basically my core need is security, and a 5 core's need is information. So that's sort of where that plays out in me. And I wanted to offer an opportunity for our leadership advisors. If you have found anything about knowing your own leadership styles to be helpful, if you could give an example of a way that that's shown up in your leadership. Whoever wants to share, leadership advisors.
I will go first.
Thanks, Georgia.
So out of these 3, I think the personality / leadership tests that we've taken, I think I'm with Amy, and that the Enneagram really helps me guide, especially the framework of like, what is my core desire and what is my core fear. And so as a type 3 wing 2, one of my core desires, which is really true, and I think is also a very human aspect, is to be accepted. And so this actually makes me a very people person. And so I've realized that in my day-to-day life, I really just love interacting with people. And so thinking about my current career, any future career or job I go into, knowing that I need human interaction, or at least I need to be driven in improving people's lives to do that. And then I also know that through this personality test, that a skill of mine is, it says the charmer is being a vivacious, charismatic person. I'm not really trying to toot my own horn here, but I kind of believe that of myself. But knowing that that's a skill of mine, and so knowing that if we need maybe to create positive change in some way, I can really get people on board with that. And it makes me also an effective communicator. And so like Amy, I think the strength is I have that language to describe myself and describe my strengths, and be confident in those strengths.
Awesome. Thanks, Georgia. Anyone else from LPT want to share a little?
I just want to say, as someone who likes words of affirmation as like a part of my love language, like doing the quiz and like reading through some of the facts is like in itself like kind of a gift. So if you're a person where it's like, yeah, I can resonate with that, I was like, oh, I can see myself like performing in that way sometimes, but also know that like not everything like may entirely resonate with you when you're reading the results. So just knowing that you also change. Like just 2 years ago, I was, I think, an assertive entertainer. So I was just like GP the last time I took the 16 personalities quiz, but then like I took it again just like a few weeks ago, and apparently I'm a protagonist now. So just thinking about the ways that these quizzes are helpful, and also like seeing how much you've grown or have, I guess, evolved over time, and just thinking about what may cause those things, and that it's just a good point of reference, and understanding like, you know, also as Amy mentioned, like this really helps you to see like what are the needs of like the teams that you work with, because I know like we use this a lot with our student teams. So that way you can honor and appreciate the people that are around you and really highlight, you know, what they bring. So that's all I will say.
That's great, Edwina. Thank you. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I like different personality styles tests, is that they don't tell you everything, right? Well, one, they're not necessarily 100% you, right? So if you read something and you feel like, well, like I agree with about 80% of this, but some of this is really not me. There, you know, 16 personalities has 16 styles, and there are 7 billion people in the world, right? So they're gonna not fit every person perfectly, but I think seeing different aspects in some of those different, oh, we're seeing something else on the screen, Gio. I think seeing the combination of those can be really helpful. In particular, I think, so Lupe is the most recent member to join LPT in the last year. And so the last time we did this, he wasn't on the slide, but so getting his added on there and seeing that Lupe and I are both INFJs, but we also have different like Enneagram types, for example. And I think that's really interesting because I mean, Lupe and I work really well together, but I wouldn't necessarily say you go, oh, Amy and Lupe are exactly the same, right? And so you'd be able to say, hey, they have the same 16 personalities types, but there's other qualities that they have differences in. And so those combinations play out a little bit differently. So with our last couple of minutes, I want to just have a little bit of a group discussion. We'll see how discussion-y you all feel like being, but if anyone has taken any personality or leadership tests, and if you have, what have you learned about yourself from them, and how can understanding these things affect your leadership? So has anyone taken any personality or leadership type tests? And as always, you can chat or you can unmute yourself.
Taken the 16 personalities one several times, and based on these tests, I've seen how over different periods of time, or just kind of the mood that I'm in at the moment, I might answer kind of differently. So for example, if I've just had a very great conversation with someone that I was maybe working with, then I might feel more extroverted. But then if on another day I feel like I've been drained from having to work and do various things throughout the day, I feel like I would be ranked as more of an introvert. So seeing how these results change based on how we change and reflect our own personal moods or how we're feeling in that moment. I feel like it's pretty interesting to see like the different aspects of it that could be true at times versus others.
Yeah, like the ways that maybe your space affects the answers that you give in a specific moment, which I do think is an interesting aspect of taking these, is oftentimes they tell you like, don't think about your ideal version, think about your true version, or even like gut reaction versus like stopping and thinking about it. So yeah, that's definitely like that can affect. I will say on the other hand, I have taken 16 personalities probably 10 times over the last like 5 years, and I always get INFJ. So that is one that like never changes for me. There is really interesting discussion in the chat about zodiac, and that is something that I'm learning more about, particularly because Georgia does love the zodiac, and so every time she tells me something like, "Oh, that's a Gemini thing," I'm like, "Okay," learning a little bit more about that. So, anything about learning these things that could affect your leadership? I'm such a Leo. Okay, now we're all learning our zodiac signs in the chat. Kate's the Capricorn.
I derailed us in the chat, so I will maybe get us back on track in the discussion. But I was thinking about this last question: how can understanding your leadership styles and values affect your leadership? I think especially if you find yourself in maybe that stereotypical position of leadership where you're a sole person leading a team of people, knowing that like maybe your communication style as a leader is not the same way that other people on your team communicate. I mean, even if you are in a team and there's no like one leader, I think that's really important to just know. For example, I'm a really direct and blunt communicator, and sometimes that can be received wrong, right? And so how do I edit maybe how I word something to make sure I'm still communicating the same thing I want to communicate, but it's received in the way I want it to be received. So yeah, I think that's how it affects my leadership.
Awesome, thank you, Georgia. Well, if there aren't any additional thoughts, I would just love to encourage you to continue thinking about that. And I think this is a journey. This is something that we learn over time. We may be like, there might be some leadership style tests that I haven't taken yet. And when I take it, it's going to completely blow my mind about thinking about, some aspect of my leadership styles that I've never thought about before. But I mentioned that the 3 that we talked about today, 16 personalities, the appreciation styles, and the Enneagram. We have links that we'll post in the chat if you want to explore those. I will say I'll give a little disclaimer. So 16 personalities is pretty straightforward. That website is really in depth. I think you can learn a lot from that one. So that one's that. The Enneagram, one of the things they say about the Enneagram is to not actually take a test, but instead to read the descriptions of the types and see which one feels most like you. And so instead of sending you to a test, I sent you to this website that has the type descriptions. And so that might be a better place to start than taking a test. Or if you do take a test, use that as a starting point, but not necessarily an ending point. And then the third is, so the words of the styles of appreciation actually is an offshoot of the 5 love languages. And I think the appreciation style one that we took was actually a paid one. So I just sent you the love languages link, which is a free website. And it might be different in your workspace versus your personal life, what your appreciation styles are, but at least I think that's a place to start with love languages. So with that, I think that's going to wrap it up. So I'm going to hand it back to Georgia for closing us out.
Yes. Okay, here we go. We have some last minute closing announcements. First of all, we really would love your feedback. And so this is our feedback form for ThunderWeek. And also if you continue to come to these Thunderbird Thursdays, we're going to have a slightly different feedback form throughout the year. We really appreciate your feedback. We don't just ask you to fill it out and then never look at these. We really do look at them and then make little tweaks to our programs throughout the year, because we want to make sure that we are giving you students the programs that you want and that you need. So that feedback form is in the chat. And then we have one more day of Thunder Week. We are completed 4 days. We have one more day, still jam-packed with so many programs. So first we have Coffee with Pathways. So we'll be out in front of Building 8 again tomorrow with some other resources on campus that include advising, transfer center, career services, and running start. And again, there's still more swag and coffee mugs and coffee coupons to collect there. We also have our community pantry drive-through. So we are all full of volunteers, but so if you're a volunteer, you better show up because you signed up, you made a commitment. But if you can't make a commitment, please email Geo. But please come through and stop by the community pantry. They'll have food items, and then say hello to your service and mentorship engagement team and get to know more about that program. So you'll see Geo's face there tomorrow on campus. It's going to be Building 16, by the way. And then we also have living room talks from CCIE. It's going to be hosted by Doris and Betty. Super excited for this. And it's going to be a Latinx panel, Origins, Stories of Our Latinidad. And so we're going to be talking about how Latin identities transcends cultural experiences and journeys that enrich our communities, but are often lost in mundanity. It's a cool word. In celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. So join us for a virtual roundtable conversation honoring the stories that embody Latinidad. So that'll be awesome. And then that will round up our Thunder Week. But then we're not done. We still have a whole nother week next week of programming, or in 2 weeks. And so we have LGBTQIA week. And so this is a week of programming and educational events that explore the LGBTQ identity and social justice issues within that community as well. And then it also celebrates and remembers the history of the gay rights movement. And it's specifically held in October to recognize National Coming Out Day. So it overlaps with that day as well. And then in November, we'll still be reminding you a lot about this week, but in November, we'll have Disability Justice Week, the second annual Disability Justice Week. And this is in partnership with Access Services, and it centralizes the intersectionality of the disability experience through a social justice framework. And that is also an amazing lineup. And all of these weeks and all the programs can be found on the CCIE website and in the links that are in the chat. And as always, stay connected with us. We are super active on social media. And then if you really don't have social media, which is totally fine, we also have a bi-monthly newsletter that is sent out. And so the last bit.ly in the chat is to sign up for that newsletter. And with that, folks, right on time, right at 4, we did it. That was our first Thunderbird Thursday of the year. And we will see you tomorrow for Coffee with Pathways, or maybe at the community pantry, but definitely at the living room talks. So we will see you all tomorrow.